What's up, everybody? Chris Canote here with Chris's Arcade. It's been a while. Actually, it's been too long since I've done an episode of Chris's Arcade. And guys, I promise you, more episodes are coming soon. I've been really busy, and I'll probably do another video about that because this year has been quite the adventure, and it's been great. It's been awesome. Long story short, I started my own business about a year ago, doing video production. Awesome. It's what I do. And so I've just been really busy. And speaking of busy, I will get to this picture here in just a moment. But guys, today's guest is amazing. He's an American multi-instrumentalist, composer, and vocalist. He's well known for his saxophone work supporting Tina Turner in the 80s and 90s, as well as for his music performance in the classic vampire film, The Lost Boys. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you the one and only Tim Cappello. Tim, welcome to the show.
It's really nice to meet you, Chris. Hey, everybody. This is a joy for me. This is really fun.
Tim, I just want to express my gratitude and excitement for you being a guest on the show. You have no idea how amazing this moment is for me right now.
That's so sweet. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. You know, when somebody says that my work in some way sort of touched them when they were a kid, or, you know, it's funny because nobody really cared when I was their age, and nobody cared when I was their father's age. But now that I'm your grandfather's age, all of a sudden, these memories really, the timing is sort of, you know, I think people are just happy to see that I'm still standing up.
You look amazing, man. Like, honestly, I'm getting a little emotional here because sometimes life is just full circle. You, Tim, are truly an inspiration to me because growing up, The Lost Boys was one of my all-time favorite 80s horror films. And actually, I had the opportunity over the past couple of years to do some video work with the one and only Corey Feldman. That's why I brought the photo out here.
Some work for Corey, huh? Was that fun?
It was awesome. It actually was awesome, man. Fascinating is actually a really good word. Let's just say that. It was fascinating. Seriously though, it just warms my heart. I am so glad that you are here with me right now. Like, I am forever grateful for this interview.
It's my pleasure. And I just want to say that I'm going to start taking some private dance lessons with your brother.
Yes, guys, I sent Tim a video of one of my short films that I did called Ricky Star in Fantasy, starring my brother, Justin Canote. He's hilarious.
You had me on the floor. Your brother is a genius. Your brother is a genius. So like I said, just, you know, find out how much he charges by the hour. Because I need some new moves, and I think he's just the guy that can give them to me.
That's awesome, man. Now, let's just jump into this, Tim. I am a huge fan of your music. You're an incredible musician and vocalist. So, when did you first pick up the saxophone?
You know, my father was a trumpet player, and he had a music school. And so from the time I was maybe 3 or 4, I got to run around the music school playing this instrument and playing that instrument. And I started out on the cello when I was about 3. And then I kept sort of changing. Then I changed to piano and drums. And then when I first picked up a saxophone, I knew it wasn't going to be easy, but I knew that that was my instrument.
And at what point did you realize you feel like you got your big break?
You know, it was always really easy for me. I had gone to school with 2 drummers. They were brothers, the Murata brothers, both Jerry and Rick. Jerry was Peter Gabriel's drummer for so many years, and I was just really lucky that these guys were friends of mine because they had talent and they had drive, and they sort of just dragged me along with them. And it was a very cool thing because I was playing with some James Taylor type of imitator out on Long Island, and then Billy Crystal, the comedian, asked me if I would play some piano with him. And then that lasted for about 5 years. And then Jerry and Ricky would get me gigs and tours in between. Eric Carmen, right, the guy that did All by Myself. And of course, Peter Gabriel. Jerry got me on Peter Gabriel's gig.
Now, in 1984, you were hired by the legendary Tina Turner as her keyboardist and saxophonist, recording and touring with her all over the world for several years. That's just huge to me, man. Like, how did that all come about? Like, same guy, same thing, or what?
Same guy. Jerry's brother, Rick, he was a friend of Tina's manager, and he said, well, you guys need a saxophone player and you need a keyboard player. I know this guy that does both, so it'll save you some money.
Like, were those some of the best times of your life, man, playing with her?
15 years of playing with Tina, and it was such an education. It really was. It was such an education. Like, in 15 years, I never heard her sing one note that couldn't be used on a record. Not one bad note in 15 years. I never saw her misstep ever that couldn't be used on a video. She is just such a genius. Now, the interesting thing that I'm going to say, I don't mean it to sound like a put down, but like a lot of singers, she doesn't know musical language. So, in other words, she would say, oh, don't play that, that sounds like running water. Or that's too blue, or that's too green. So you have to, but once you learned her language and you learned what that meant musically, she was never wrong. Like, she was the best band leader, and I learned so much from her. And it just, I was kind of, because I came out of a conservatory, I think I was a little snotty. Like, oh, well, you don't know what a minor 7 flat 5 is in the key of B flat. I was a little snotty, and it just, that I really learned my lesson. That music is emotion. It doesn't matter what chord you're playing. It doesn't matter what note it is in the chord or what key you're in. It's about the emotions. Nothing else matters. When I joined her band, we were playing McDonald's conventions.
Wow.
I'm serious. We were playing little tiny, like, casinos and this run of McDonald's conventions where they'd have like a skit with somebody dressed like a milkshake and a quarter pounder, and then Tina would come on and play for 20 minutes, and it was, it was tough. It was tough to see her like that, but it was just when What's Love Got to Do with It started to hit. So from there, and God bless her, she never, even after she became really big overnight, she never reneged on one of those gigs. She played all those gigs. She played them out. And that really showed me also the importance of taking care of business. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. And you were on some of the albums, weren't you?
I played saxophone on We Don't Need Another Hero. And I played saxophone on what really I think is her most underrated rock and roll track, called One of the Living, which is a real rocker from the soundtrack of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. And I also played, she had a pretty big hit. It doesn't really carry over. People don't remember it, but you should listen to it because it's a really good track. It's called The Typical Male. And it was like a number 3 hit at the time. But it was sort of, her second album didn't do as well as the first one. So it was sort of the first single that did well. And then after that, she sort of stayed big in Europe. And she could always fill up houses of people that would come see her. But her records never sold as well as Private Dancer.
That's awesome, man. Speaking of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, great 80s flick. I just gotta say, I feel that the 80s and 90s were some of the best last times of Earth's existence. And I mean that. And I'm actually working on a documentary with Aaron Schwartz about this. Because I feel like in today's age, while I think technology can be cool, I think it can also do a lot of harm. And don't get me wrong, I love technology. I wouldn't have the show if it wasn't for technology and the internet. But I just feel like my generation got to experience the last best times before the internet and computers took over. You know what I'm saying? And we won't get too far into it because it can get, turn into a deep conversation and get a little philosophical. But anyway, what was it like being such a big part of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome?
It was just like being in the middle of this vortex, and we were touring constantly. And she was such a huge part of my life for 15 years. And yet, when I go to a convention and, maybe I'm signing things and selling t-shirts and stuff like that, I maybe will sell 2 or 3 pictures of Tina and like 100 of the Lost Boys. Like it was such a huge part of my life. Yet this little 2-hour thing in my life that didn't even seem like anything at the time, 31 years later, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation if I wasn't in the Lost Boys. If I just played with Tina, I'd be just like anybody, the sax guy that'll play with Foreigner, or the sax guy that'll play with, Hall & Oates or whatever. But it was this little thing that we did in like one take. And it literally took 2 hours out of my life. I mean, and you know what movies are like. They take 10 times longer than you think they're gonna. I was prepared to be there all night. And we were back in Corey Haim's room having a party by 10:30. It was nothing.
Let's talk about that for a minute. The Lost Boys, such a classic vampire film. Probably, honestly, one of the best vampire movies out there. Tim, you were basically the energetic opener to this iconic film. And yes, you are right. If it wasn't for the Lost Boys, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation right now. But it's not just that. It's also about a classic, iconic, awesome song called I Still Believe. Tim, elaborate a little bit about the song, and also tell us, how did you get the gig on Lost Boys?
I was auditioning for the Gary Busey part in Lethal Weapon. So I went to the Warner Brothers lot and I heard the original version of I Still Believe on my car radio. And I was actually about 5 minutes late for the audition because I was in my car listening to this amazing song. I mean, that's a crazy coincidence, I think. And so I'm there, and obviously I didn't get the part, but while I was there, a man named Joel Sill, who's a music publisher, and he started the job. He was the first executive music producer, where he would put together music for a film. He'd get songs from already established artists or obscure songs that really fit perfectly. Before him, there was no such thing. It would always just be a score to a movie, and that's it. So his first movie, which started this job, was Easy Rider. So he was like 17 years old and did Easy Rider and put all those great, 6 Were Nine and all that great stuff into the movie. And it just changed music and movies for all time. So he comes in and he says, there's somebody I want you, he never met me before. He said, there's somebody I want you to meet. So we introduced ourselves and we went down the hall and it was Joel Schumacher's office. And Joel just went, you want to sing a song in a movie? And I went, sure. And he went, okay, I'll let you know when it is and what it is and all that stuff. And that was it. I mean, it was a minute.
That's amazing, man. That's it. Just like that, you got the gig.
It was funny because I had done because of Tina, I kept getting calls. Like I was on Miami Vice and I was on these, TV shows, The Equalizer and stuff like that. And I was always going out for auditions for acting parts. And the whole thing about the Lost Boys was that it didn't really seem to me to be anything different. But I was totally freaked out when Joel sent me the song. Because I'm like, I had already bought the cassette. You know what I mean? Like I wrote it down by the call, I still believe, and I already had it. And then he sent it to me. Like it was wild. So I already knew the song, and thank God there were real nice long spots to put some saxophone in. If it had been another song, it might not have been so easy.
And a lot of people don't know that the band The Call actually wrote this song. But Tim, in my opinion, dude, you made this song, dude. You made it what it is today.
That's very sweet of you. Thank you. I sometimes I listen to their original version and I think, oh boy, Michael Biehn has a sort of a passion to it in his own way, that I could never have. But if I contributed something to it, it's a great song. Did you by any chance see the TV show Waco?
No.
Go back and check the last one of Waco. And David Koresh used up the last of his generator gas to, from inside the compound, play I Still Believe.
Wow.
Freaky.
Wow, I did not know that. Yeah, I'd say so.
It's a song that really affects people. It's a song that really affects people.
It does, man. Lyrically and musically, it's just a genius song, and we're going to get there in a minute. But I want to talk about one thing real quick here. The classic look of Tim Cappello. Tim, you were described as having a sexual stage presence, performing shirtless in a G-string, with your skin covered in oil and having your hair in a ponytail. Now, I gotta say, that is one spot-on description of Tim freaking Cappello.
Well, it just sort of came naturally. By the Tina thing, like Tina was in Amsterdam and she saw the codpiece and she said, oh, that'd be good for Timmy. So she brought me the codpiece. Like it took kind of a couple of years And then I went to Home Depot and made well, this was before Home Depot, so I just went to like a hardware store and made up the thing with the hanging chains and regular like Home Depot chain. So all of that stuff took a while. But by the time the Lost Boys came around, the timing was just right.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was the style, man, except you took it just another step up, dude, and you put your own unique spin on it, and that's just awesome.
Well, I really like to think of it more like I try to put a little bit of wrong in there. I try to go just a little too far that it makes people smile or laugh a little bit. That they're like, in other words, that thing that your brother did, it's that there's an element in what I do that is a little bit wrong. Just I try to go for just enough wrong in there. I really, really, really never wanted to be an ingenue in any sense of that word. I always wanted to be just the guy that goes just a little too far that somebody could make fun of a little bit.
Make fun of it? Those aren't the words. Like, I think we can all look back at the 80s and look at some of the crazy hairstyles and clothing styles that we had. And it's funny now in a way, but back then it worked. That was just the style. I mean, technically, we could go back to the 60s and 70s and look at some of the crazy pants and shirts and glasses they wore back then, but it's what they wore. And dude, it worked for you, Tim. It was awesome.
If it wasn't a little wrong, I never would have gotten the Saturday Night Live thing.
Let's talk about that. So Saturday Night Live had a character called Sergio, which was basically a character imitating Tim Cappello, the sexy sax man from the Lost Boys. And Tim, I just want to know, did they have to contact you to, be able to do that act? Or did you just turn on the TV one day and go, oh my gosh, that's me?
They just did it. I remember being on a gig and a friend of mine said, they did a parody of you on Saturday Night Live, and he thought I was going to be offended. He thought I was going to be pissed. So I went and saw it, and I just loved it. To me, that's exactly where I want to be. I want to be in that place. Sometimes when I do gigs now, and especially, like I said, now that I'm a lot of people's grandfather's age, that I see smiles on people's faces that have to do with that little bit of wrongness. And I see it, when I see pictures and people will send me pictures and stuff like that it's sort of like I always thought this guy was a real nut job, and I'm actually standing in front of him, and it just, it's, I've always felt I wanted that.
I think it's just a feel-good thing for people. It takes them back to when the times were just really good, you know what I'm saying? And you kept the image, Tim, and, you could have changed it, but you didn't. And I respect that, man. I think that's so freaking awesome, dude. For real.
So, in other words, I do all kinds of gigs. So, when you're a saxophone player and a singer and stuff, you just have to take whatever gigs are going to pay your bills. So I do as many gigs in a suit and a tie as I do in a codpiece. So to me, it's just a part. It's just a part of it. I have lots of friends who are jazz musicians, and I play jazz gigs, and I play gigs for fundraisers and weddings and all kinds of stuff like that. And I'm glad that it's sort of balanced, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I gotta say, you do not look a day over 30 years old, man. And like, dude, you've kept your body in such great shape. And like, and speaking of your physique, like, have you always been into like bodybuilding or something? Or how did that come to be a part of your image?
In my early 20s, I had a pretty bad drug problem. And I went up to a gym, like one of these hardcore gyms up above a plumbing supply store. And it was like just a bunch of these muscle heads. And for some reason, I just went, this could really work. If I really get into this, this could really get me out of my drug problem. And it did. It did. It just worked.
So you kind of traded one addiction for another, but like a healthier one, right?
Yeah. But, you know, one was something that's good for your body and the other was something that's bad for your body. And I don't know what I'd do without it. If somebody said, oh, you know, you can never work out again, I don't know what I'd do with that. I'd be lost at sea. I wouldn't know what to do. You know, because I just came back from the gym and, you know, today before we had we're having our chat now. And, you know, it's just something that's a part of my life. And I'm so glad that again, that little bit of kismet, you know, like I just went up these stairs and I saw all these like crazy looking muscle heads and I went, wow, this is cool. Absolutely. These guys look cool. And like I said, I'm 6 foot tall and I was 135 pounds. So that's really, really skinny. So, there are times when I'm into it more than others. Sometimes I take a break, you know, but I'm just so happy about that little piece of coincidence.
You should, man. And you know, I'm so glad that you got past that dark time in your life, dude, because I watched someone very close to me actually go through heroin addiction and withdrawal and synthetic heroin. I mean, that seems to be, you know, a bigger epidemic today, you know, synthetic heroin from doctors, if you will. Because doctors seem to be like the biggest legal drug dealers today, in my opinion. And, but anyway, the person I'm talking about is like doing super awesome today still, like 10 years clean off that crap. And, but he almost had to trade that addiction for a healthy one. And for him, it was working out. And, but so proud of him. And Tim, I'm so proud of you, man. And that, I'm just glad that's not a part of your life anymore.
It does trade in one feeling for another. My whole thing stems from an anxiety disorder. I have a bad anxiety disorder. So you too.
Yeah.
So I don't do a lot of things to keep myself together. It'll just take over.
And it's such a natural endorphin releasing thing, like, you know, and dude, I'm so sorry to hear that you suffer from anxiety. Like, I can totally relate to that. Like, I've suffered for many years and thankfully, like, that has all gone away, and I should probably do a video on that one of these days.
Boy, I'm so happy for you.
Anyway, dude, let's move on past the depressing stuff. But, Tim, you are still at it today, man. You were just recently featured on the Netflix variety show, The Break with Michelle Wolf, and big news. You were just featured in Gunship's latest track and music video for their new song titled Dark All Day. Holy crap, Tim. Like, this track and music video gave me goosebumps. Just brilliant.
It's just a work of God. Her voice has so, like, I could tell her voice in like 2 notes. She has so much personality. And it's so perfect for this. And I just think I'm such a big Gunship fan now. So I'm really, I really feel like it's been a lot of luck lately for me. And I just put out my first ever solo CD.
And what's your album called?
It's called Blood on the Reed.
And where can we find that?
You can find that at timcappello.com. And it's also gonna, in about a week, it should be on Amazon and iTunes and all the usual places where you get your music.
So you're telling me if me and the viewers go to timcappello.com, we can not only get your new CD, but we can also get an autographed photo of you? Like, dude, that's like a dream come true, man.
I got t-shirts, I got pins. I have two ways to buy the CD. You can download it, or you can have a personalized, signed copy. And like I said, it takes a little while for it to get out into the digital world, but you can listen to it on Spotify and stuff like that in a couple of weeks.
That's exciting, man. I am so happy and thrilled, Tim, that you are still at it today. I will totally buy your album, and Tim, it's just been an amazing time talking with you. You're truly an inspiration, bro. Like, not only to me, but to so many others. You have no idea.
Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate it, and I had a ball talking with you.
Thanks so much. Guys, check out Tim at timcappello.com. Thanks again, Tim, for being a guest on Chris's Arcade. I am forever truly grateful, my friend.
Beautiful questions and wonderful insights, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
See you later, Chris.
How cool was that? Tim Cappello from the Lost Boys, Tina Turner, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Guys, this was like a dream come true. Check out the song, I Still Believe, if you've never heard it, guys. Watch the movie The Lost Boys. It's classic. It's awesome. I'm Chris with Chris's Arcade. If you like what you see, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, comment, share, whatever you got to do. We'll see you guys next time.